Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Ronald back here with another video. This one I just kind of wanted to put together real quick because I saw the recent dip. The whole market is red, right? The whole, not just the crypto market, but also the equities market. The whole stock market is down. Everything is down. And people are wondering what the hell, right? And especially because there's been a good bit of bullish news, at least in the crypto space in the last month or two. And just based on these things, you would expect the price to go up. And yet the price of everything is going down. All these markets are crashing. And I thought it was a good time to do a follow-up video to my last market narrative evaluation video. This one I'm kind of putting together a little faster and on the fly, but I think we're going to get some important points in that I wanted to kind of get out there while we're still in this mood here. As always, if you get value, like and subscribe, and drop a comment down below, and tell me what you think about all this. Am I off, or do you think maybe I might be headed in the right direction here? So, big dip, right? Big dip, like 10% across the board, the entire market. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. We got options expiration coming. We might see even more dip. There's a lot of leverage in the markets. The longs are about to get liquidated. I mean, we might see a lot more blood in the streets. There's already blood in the streets, but we might see even more blood in the streets. So, what does this all mean? Has the narrative changed? I said in my last video that if you were not trading with the long investment horizon, at least 5 to 10 years, that it was time to get out. But if you have a long investment horizon, it's time to go in harder, right? And I kind of stand by that right now. That's more or less the message that I would reinforce right now. Because winter might be coming. Winter might be coming. The question I want to kind of ask is, when does FUD stop simply being FUD, right? When does it start being the narrative has shifted, right? And if the narrative has shifted, what does that mean? Some people are trying to say that this is just a bear trend. We've been down almost 20% from all-time highs for going on 2 months now. And if you remember what the definition of a bear market that I used in the previous video, borrowed from the equities market, is 20% for 2 months. And we technically aren't there yet, but we're getting really close. And it seems like at this point, it's only a matter of time, right? Because 20% down from all-time high, what is that? Let's call it that it was 69,000 times 0.8. We would have to get up to at least 55,000 by the end of the month, basically. How likely is that? Are we going to get to 55,000 by the end of the month? I don't think so. I think we're headed to 30,000 before we get to 55. So why is that? Why is that? What is the big news that we've been seeing lately? There's a couple things. I'm gonna put some of these headlines up as we talk about them briefly, because I actually really want this video to not be too long. Okay, so a couple things. All at once, and then remember, my hypothesis in that last video about bear markets and crypto winters is that those things come when there are big events, sometimes a single big event like the Silk Road going down, which decreased Bitcoin volume so much that the price just tanked and we had a crypto winter because investors lost confidence in a big way. Or multiple events, especially early on, multiple exchange hacks and the lawsuits fallout from those hacks, that have changed investor confidence. Now, recently we've had a bunch of hacks and it hasn't really done the same thing. However, the market was really healthy. We were in the midst of a bunch of economic stimulus from the Fed, and they've been propping up the dollar. It's not just news about the crypto market we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to talk about global news. And I think this makes a big difference, because FUD in the crypto market is one thing, but global conditions changing in a way where all markets are going to be affected is another thing entirely. And I think real problems in the world at large have to be considered when you evaluate the crypto market. So let's go through a couple of these things. Each one of these things is not really a big deal at all when considered in isolation. But the fact that a lot of these things coming together alongside a shift in investor thinking about all risk on assets in general, I think that means a little bit more than just FUD, at least in the long term, or in the short term. Remember, I'm still long-term bullish. If you really have a 5 to 10 year investment horizon, all this means is you're about to get an amazing opportunity to continue DCAing and make a lot of money. So for one thing, Indonesian Islamic organization basically put out a fatwa on cryptocurrency and declared it haram. It is not in accordance with Islamic law, Sharia law, which is not all Islam. They don't all follow that at all. But at least in the parts of the world where that is relevant, this is haram, and they won't be, it'll be very much discouraged that they trade with any crypto. Once again, not a very big piece of news when taken in isolation, because once again, this affects a smaller subset of people, and it's really not that big of news when taken all by itself. Bigger news. Crypto.com, one of the big on-ramps to cryptocurrency in the modern day, has been hacked. $30 million stolen from Crypto.com. Not just any exchange, but from Crypto.com. They're the ones that have a sports stadium named after them now. They're the ones doing commercials with Matt Damon. They're the ones that a lot of people look to, and a lot of their people's first experience with buying and interacting with crypto. They just got hacked for $30 million. Bitmart got hacked a little while ago. Another exchange I can't quite remember off the top of my head got hacked after that. And now we got Crypto.com getting hacked. That's a big name, right? And before this, and I mentioned this in the previous video, is that legislation, the infrastructure bill, that basically with the brokers and all the implications that has for the crypto market, that got passed. That got passed basically unchanged. There are some proposals from like Senator Cynthia Lummis about adjusting some of that, having a different organization other than the SEC in charge of regulating cryptocurrency specifically, but none of that has actually come to anything yet. As of right now, the actual legislation that's been passed has been the one that we were afraid would get passed, unchanged, without any amendments, regarding basically classifying everybody as brokers, which is pretty bad news, which we have not seen any change in that. Will we see some change in that going forward? Potentially. But as of right now, the way people see it is that, right? Another thing is the Russian central bank has once again proposed that they want to outlaw proof-of-work mining and all cryptocurrency trading. A little bit bigger. This is interesting because Vladimir Putin himself has actually said in the past that he thinks crypto is pretty legit, but that he's not quite open to fully embracing it just yet. We'll see what this comes to, but it's not the fact of what's actually necessarily going to be acted on here. It's the fact that it's being said. Once again, we're evaluating narratives, and narratives seem to be the thing behind bear markets and crypto winters. And it seems like as all of this kind of weaves together, this is just another piece of the puzzle. If all of Russia bans proof-of-work mining and all trading of crypto, it'll make it harder to do these things, but not necessarily impossible. But it's another nail in the coffin, right? It's another thing to consider. It's not the end, but it's another thing to consider. There have been a couple of shifts also in terms of crypto ads, right? Spain, the UK, I believe Singapore, they've kind of done some modifications in how they regulate crypto ads, and certain ads have now been banned. Facebook has themselves backed off from their ad ban, which I think is probably a bit more substantive because Facebook is international and more people use them. But multiple actual countries have once again gone in on regulating and limiting cryptocurrency ads, which is important. The EU is now proposing also measures to limit proof-of-work mining because they're once again stirring up the environmental FUD, which once again, by itself, is really just FUD. Bitcoin is majority renewable resources that are used to mine it. There are other arguments regarding, replacing the financial system, which would actually be a net decrease in overall energy usage. But people don't necessarily get that yet. And this is once again, so proof of work outlawed in Russia and all of the European Union. If any of these happen for real, it could be an issue, especially, given the other recent issues that we've run into. Kazakhstan, them having basically a full-on internet blackout and the power issues there with all the unrest in that nation at this point. And that did a little hit to Bitcoin's hash rate. Once again, all of these things by themselves, not necessarily all that big of a deal. And if they'd happened last year in the middle of the year, they'd have contributed to that dip that we had, that little mini bear market, and we'd be moving past that. But we can talk even more about this stuff. The reason that I think potentially we could see a prolonged bear market or even crypto winter is that the overall market is changing as well. We're now seeing changes in the Fed policy, right? Initially, they had said that we're not even thinking about raising rates. Well, now we're thinking about raising rates 3 times in 1 year. That's a big change. That's a really big change. That's not something small, right? They reversed their position and went all the way the other way. That suggests that they're kind of panicking a little bit, right? So they want to raise rates 3 times in the next year. They want to decrease the liquidity on their balance sheet, right? So they want to basically let some bonds expire and not renew them. They want to stop buying bonds. This is an issue for the market at large because there's a reason even the stock markets are responding to this. And the most recent jobless numbers are up. There's more unemployment. There's more people that don't have jobs. But I believe the actual unemployment numbers recently went down, suggesting that some people have maybe stopped looking for jobs. Anyway, the point being that, the economy is not doing so hot. And we're really kind of afraid of inflation coming on right now. The supply chain issues may not have been as transient as we're thinking, and that's Jerome Powell's explanation for why he said transient initially and seems to be moving away from that now. Otherwise, there's also the issue with Russia and the Ukraine. There are some last-ditch efforts in Geneva right now as invasion fears grow, right? So this is another one that kind of makes you nervous on a global scale because remember, crypto doesn't exist in isolation. People mine Bitcoin. People buy and sell crypto. And if those people are surrounded by a really unstable environment, a world war is the type of thing that we're actually afraid of long term if something happens with Ukraine and Russia. If Russia invades the Ukraine and all of this stuff goes to shit, pardon my language, that's literally what we're afraid of now. Is Putin going to risk a global incident by invading Ukraine? This is where those tensions are leading us, right? Will it happen? I don't know. The United States' failure to intervene in some recent Middle Eastern issues may have emboldened Putin to the point where maybe he's willing to risk some World War III issues. And if you simply go online right now and look up the word recession, you'll see a few too many hits. Will we go from pandemic to recession? That's the speculation right now. That speculation seemed to be more in the back of people's minds months ago, but now seems to be coming to the fore. It's not right at the front just yet. It's not headline news just yet. And ultimately, it takes 2 quarters to formally declare a recession. And we're not technically there yet, but we could go there. And if all these pieces of FUD come together and maintain price suppression, especially in Bitcoin, for long enough, if any of these pieces of global news comes to fruition in anything less than a good way, if Russia invades Ukraine, if we go into a genuine recession, these things will have a prolonged effect on the crypto market. And given the direction that we've been trending now, it doesn't take much more than enough price suppression to keep the price level to technically put us into a bear market. Technically being 20% in 2 months. Now, what about crypto winter? Is winter here? That's an interesting one because we're within shot of that. We're within striking distance of that. What do I mean by that? Well, typically we've seen low to mid 80s average minimum drop with previous crypto winters, even 90%, you know? And so saying that the winter threshold, making this up on the spot, 80%, let's call it 80%. That's roughly the area when sentiment really turns to the point where it's not just bearish, but people may declare straight up crypto winter. 80%. We're down from 69,000 down to 38,000. Actually, I believe 37,000 at some point today. I mean, we're closing in on that 50% down from all-time high mark. Will we keep going? We don't need to keep going for a bear market. But another 30%, especially given that today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday, options expiration, we go down a little bit more, I bet. That's, just me throwing that out there. It's speculation. But there's another Friday after that. That's the last Friday of the month. Another bigger options expiration date probably. And we might go down even further. Given the sentiment right now, the extreme fear in the market, that fear indicator can be an indicator of when we skyrocket. I might be full of it. This might all be wrong. I hope so. That would be cool. But the narrative doesn't seem to support that. The narrative doesn't seem to support that right now. Could that turn around? Yeah, sure. Narratives turn around on a dime. And sometimes for reasons that you don't really even know. The ends of the previous crypto winters weren't really marked by any particular events. It's hard to predict those. I don't have any sort of structure or framework for thinking about when those would end. But it seems like we know the types of triggers that would keep a price suppressed for an extended period. And these kinds of events on the global stage might be what it takes to, keep the price suppressed. We were going to potentially see Tonga take on Bitcoin Standard. But now they had a huge volcano eruption just after they announced that. And, that might delay those things. Other countries are thinking about adopting a Bitcoin Standard. If Brazil were to adopt a Bitcoin Standard tomorrow, everything I just said is off the table because that's probably bullish enough to, keep that going. That would be a big deal. But even that's not necessarily foolproof, right? Because if World War III happens, that supersedes everything. So, we'll see. We'll see. Ultimately, I'm going to tell you the same useless thing that every trader is ultimately trying to tell you whenever they make their price predictions. Price go up, price go down. Could be either way. There's two options and it's going to be one of them, or, just a crap market. But the narrative doesn't look great is really the takeaway from this video. And how you respond to that and what that means for you, I think really depends on what is your investment horizon. And so that's where we are. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching this far. Like and subscribe if you got value. See you another time.